A job text says the easy part comes first. Rate a product, tap a few buttons, collect cash. For a moment, that can feel reassuring because the message is not asking for money right away. It's trying to look like a normal, low-stakes gig. The FTC describes task scams as fake online jobs that use app-like tasks such as rating products or liking videos, and some of them show small payouts first. That early payout is the mechanism. It's a trust builder. If the target sees a little money move in, the next request feels less suspicious, even when the next step is the real trap: putting in your own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. The FTC says these scams commonly start with unsolicited text messages or WhatsApp messages, which is exactly the kind of channel that can make a fake offer feel casually personal. The consequence is not a harmless bonus. The FTC says no legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid. It also said reported job scam losses exceeded $220 million in the first 6 months of 2024. And task scams accounted for nearly 40% of job scam reports in 2024. We do not know which text any one viewer will get next, but the pattern is simple. If the job pays first and then asks you to pay, the job is the warning sign. Watch for the next step: any request to keep earning, unlock funds, or move money. Here is the basic system. Real gig apps, side hustles, and referral programs have trained people to expect dashboards, quick approvals, and fast payments. That familiar rhythm matters because task scams are built to borrow it. The FTC described them as fake online jobs, where people are asked to complete app-like tasks, such as rating products or liking videos, are sometimes shown small payouts first, and are later told to put in their own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. So the trick is not just the job offer. It is the sequence. First comes a small win that feels like proof. Then comes a balance that looks real enough to chase. After that, the scam shifts the burden onto you. Pay more, deposit more, or keep sending money to reach money you supposedly already earned. That is why the setup can feel convincing, even when nothing about it is legitimate. What to watch next is simple. The moment a job text asks you to pay to continue, the job has crossed into the FTC's no pay to get paid rule. And if the message arrived out of the blue, through text or WhatsApp, treat it as untrusted before you reply. Send personal information or move money. The FTC says these scams commonly start with unsolicited text messages or WhatsApp messages. So the first contact is often not a job board, not a company career page, and not a normal hiring pipeline. It is a random message landing in your pocket, already trying to skip the parts where you would check names, domain names, or whether the role even exists. That matters because the scam depends on speed and familiarity. People are used to quick replies, side gigs, referrals, and app-based work, so a stranger can borrow that language and make the message feel routine. But a message that arrives out of nowhere is still out of nowhere, even if it uses the right buzzwords. The FTC's safer rule is simple. Treat any unsolicited job text as untrusted. Avoid paying money to unlock wages or tasks, and verify a job through a known official company website or trusted hiring path before replying, sending personal information, or moving money. The consequence is that the conversation can keep moving before you have time to notice the setup. The scam does not need a perfect resume screen. It just needs a reply. The next thing to watch for is whether the message tries to pull you off the normal hiring path and into a private channel where the rules can change fast. Now, the scam does the clever bit. It hands over a small payout first, not because it is generous, because it is building trust, one cheap cookie at a time. The point is to make the dashboard feel alive, and the promise feel measurable. You did the task. The balance moved. Maybe this is real. That tiny success is the bait, and the mechanism is simple enough to be annoying. A fake online job can imitate app-like work, show a small win, and then ask you to put in your own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. The FTC says no legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid, so the early payout is not the prize, it is the hook. The consequence is that your brain gets a little evidence and starts discounting the risk. That is exactly what the scam wants, before the larger ask lands. What to watch next? If the next step involves a deposit, a fee, or any pressure to send money to reach money, that is the moment to stop and verify the job through a known official company website or trusted hiring path. This is where the con gets blunt. The message shifts from work to payment. You are told to deposit money, recharge an account, or keep paying in order to continue or unlock supposed earnings. The FTC's rule here is simple. No legitimate employer will ask you to pay in order to get paid. That matters because the scam is built to flip the normal job relationship. Instead of an employer paying for labor, the fake dashboard makes the worker send money first. In the FTC's description of task scams, people may be shown small payouts first, and then they are pushed to put in their own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. The little win is not proof the job is real, it is part of the mechanism. The consequence is obvious, but easy to miss in the moment. Once you treat the payment screen as normal, the trap has already started to close. If the job needs your money before it will release your money, that is not payroll. That is a trap with a dashboard. What to watch next is the follow-up pressure, the next demand, the next fee, the next urgent unlock, because the first payment request is rarely the last one. The size of the problem is not tiny. The FTC said reports mentioning task scams rose from 0 in 2020 to about 5,000 in 2023 and about 20,000 in the first half of 2024. That is a jump you can feel in the numbers, even before you get to the money. The FTC also said reported job scam losses exceeded $220 million in just the first 6 months of 2024. So this is not some weird corner case that only happens to people who clicked the wrong moon link at 2 a.m. It is a real and growing pattern. And the basic trick is blunt. A fake job can pay a little first, then ask for your own money to keep going or to unlock supposed earnings. That matters because the scam only has to work once per person, and it can travel through the same channels again and again. The FTC said task scams commonly start with unsolicited text messages or WhatsApp messages, which is exactly why the pitch keeps showing up in ordinary inboxes instead of obvious junk piles. What to watch next is the shape of the ask. If the job starts with a small win, then shifts to a deposit, a fee, or a payment to access wages, that is the turn. And the FTC says no legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid. The FTC said cryptocurrency was the most frequently reported payment method in task scam reports, and reported crypto losses tied to task scams reached $41 million in the first half of 2024. That matters because crypto can move fast and be hard to reverse once it's gone. In a task scam, the payment path is part of the pressure. The fake dashboard is not just asking for money, it is steering you toward a method that gives you less time to pause, compare, or reverse course. That pairs neatly with the earlier trick, a small payout first, then a bigger ask to keep earning or unlock what you think you already made. The faster and more final the payment channel feels, the less room there is for second thoughts. The consequence is simple and ugly. Once the money leaves, the job can vanish with it. The scam relies on urgency and a modern-looking process to make the demand feel normal enough to obey. But the FTC's rule still holds. No legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid. What to watch next is the same pattern in a cleaner outfit. If the message starts as a job, then turns into a payment problem, here is the ugly upgrade. The Guardian reported that BBB data showed employment scam reports doubled in 2025, and that AI tools can make fake job outreach more polished and harder for applicants to separate from real recruiting messages. So the message you get may sound cleaner than the old obvious spam. Better grammar, better formatting, better fake confidence. That matters because the scam's first job is not to be believable forever. It only has to look normal long enough for you to keep reading. A cleaner text can feel like a real hiring path, especially when the whole setup already copies the language of remote work, side gigs, and fast payouts. The polish is part of the mechanism. It lowers your guard before the deposit demand shows up. The consequence is simple. If the outreach is harder to spot, more people may reach the point where the fake dashboard starts asking for money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. But the reporting here is still limited to what BBB data and Guardian coverage support. More reports, and AI making outreach harder to separate from real recruiting messages. We are not saying every polished message is a scam. What to watch next is the pattern, not the font. If a job text is unsolicited, looks tidy, and quickly leads toward paying money to get paid, that is the trap to notice. So what should you do? Start with the boring rule that actually helps. Treat any unsolicited job text as untrusted. Do not pay money to unlock wages or tasks. And verify the job through a known official company website or trusted hiring path before you reply, send personal information, or move money. That matters because the scam's trick is not mystery, it is momentum. The message is designed to feel like a quick route into paid work, especially when it looks polished, or seems to offer a small win up front. But the FTC says task scams can begin with texts or WhatsApp messages, and its reporting shows the pattern has grown sharply. The point is to pull you from curiosity to action before you stop and check. The consequence of skipping that pause is simple. You can go from a tiny first payout to being asked for your own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. The FTC says no legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid. That is the clean line. There is one uncertainty to keep in mind. A real job can still arrive by text, but the message alone is not proof. So watch next for the name, the website, and the hiring path. Because the check happens before you trust the dashboard, not after. If you already sent money, the first move is simple. Stop feeding the machine. Do not keep paying to chase a balance that may only exist on a fake screen. The scam's whole design is to make each new payment feel like the one that finally unlocks the job, the balance, or the next task. Once you recognize that pattern, the smartest move is to break it instead of negotiating with it. Save the messages, screenshots, timestamps, and any account details you can still access. That record matters because the scam depends on momentum, and momentum is easier to interrupt when you can point to the exact texts and screens that pushed you forward. The FTC's rule here is blunt. No legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid. So if a job asked for money, the relationship was already wrong, even if the dashboard looked polished. The sources here do not give one universal recovery script, and I am not going to pretend they do. What they do support is the basic consequence. Once money has moved, the priority changes from win the job to limit the damage. What to watch next is the same pressure tactic in a new wrapper. Another message, another unlock button, another promise that the next payment is the last one. The bigger lesson is that this scam sits in the same family as a lot of other traps we cover here. The fake message, the fake shortcut, the too good to be true deal, and the hidden payment path. Those all rely on the same trick. They make a simple answer feel socially normal before you notice the cost. The mechanism is familiar, even when the costume changes. The FTC described task scams as fake online jobs where people are asked to complete app-like tasks such as rating products or liking videos, are sometimes shown small payouts first, and are later told to put in their own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. The FTC said task scams commonly start with unsolicited text messages or WhatsApp messages, so the first contact already deserves caution. The consequence is that the next version may not look exactly like this one. It may be a side hustle, a referral, a refund, a shipping task, or some other screen with little rewards and big pressure. The shape changes. The squeeze stays the same. The FTC said task scams accounted for nearly 40% of job scam reports in 2024. And The Guardian reported that AI tools can make fake job outreach more polished and harder for applicants to separate from real recruiting messages. So the surface can get smoother, even while the trap stays crude. There is still uncertainty about the exact form the next pitch will take, because scammers keep changing the wrapper. That is why paying attention to the pattern matters more than memorizing one script. If the message is unsolicited, if the job asks you to pay to keep going, or if the opportunity only opens after you send money, the safer move is to stop and verify through a known official company website or trusted hiring path before replying, sending personal information, or moving money. Bottom line, a job that pays you a little first can still be a scam if the next step is to make you pay to keep going. That is the whole trick. The FTC describes task scams as fake online jobs where people do app-like tasks such as rating products or liking videos, are sometimes shown small payouts first, and are later told to put in their own money to continue or unlock supposed earnings. So the first payment is not proof that the job is real. In this pattern, it can be part of the trap. The FTC said task scams commonly start with unsolicited text messages or WhatsApp messages. And it said no legitimate employer will ask a worker to pay in order to get paid. It also said reported task scam mentions rose from 0 in 2020 to about 5,000 in 2023 and about 20,000 in the first half of 2024. Reported job scam losses exceeded $220 million in the first 6 months of 2024, and task scams accounted for nearly 40% of job scam reports in 2024. The consequence is simple and ugly. A tiny payout can pull you toward a much bigger loss, especially when the payment method shifts to cryptocurrency, which the FTC said was the most frequently reported payment method in task scam reports. There is uncertainty in any single message because not every remote job is fake. But the safe move is to treat any unsolicited job text as untrusted. Avoid paying money to unlock wages or tasks, and verify the job through a known official company website or trusted hiring path before replying, sending personal